All righty then, and we're back, and you're listening to Making a Way with bargain Queen Sheryl Renee, and on the phone all the way from Japan is my friend Bryan Baier, who has a show called Traveling on a Dime. And I know Bryan because his father is one of my dear, dear friends and has played bass in my band off and on for maybe even a couple of decades. And so I've known this man since he was a young man. And he is doing his thing over there in Japan. How you doing, Bryan?
How you doing, Cheryl? I'm doing good.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you on the show. First of all, give the listeners a little background on who you are and how you ended up in Japan and what you're doing.
Okay, my name is Bryan Baier. I'm Frank Baier's son. Frank Baier is a bass player who has been, playing with Cheryl's for probably as long as I can remember him playing. I graduated from the University of Denver in 2008, and a few months later I came to Japan to be an English teacher because I wanted to go see what spring was like in Japan, or to quote the Frank Sinatra song. And I haven't come back to the United States because I've enjoyed my time in Japan and have had a successful career path in Japan, or at least a stable career path in Japan. And a couple of years ago, about 4 years ago, I had the idea to do a travel show, because I had so many people around me who were complaining about how expensive it was to travel, and I had found a number of ways to save money, a number of discount train tickets, a number of discount or cheaper highway buses that they have in Japan, a number of inexpensive guest houses, and then a bunch of places off the beaten path in Japan that were just so cool I wanted to share them. And so I started with a little digital camera, and I just started recording and putting something together, and it came together in about 2013.
Okay.
In the form of Traveling on a Dime.
Okay.
And I've made about 45 shows since then.
45 shows.
45.
Oh, that's impressive.
Less than 10 minutes.
That's impressive. And
Thank
so,
you.
okay, so tell me about some of the places that you've been. And this show, of course, is all about how to save money, budgeting on a dime, traveling on a budget. Yeah.
It shows ways that you can cut your budget and still enjoy yourself. So places I've been, some of the greatest places I've been, I have been to Okinawa, which is basically Japan's version of Hawaii.
Okay.
I didn't go to the main island where the United States has a bunch of military bases. I went to the westernmost small islands, where I went scuba diving, and I also went to the region of Japan that has the largest rainforest in Japan, an island called Iriomotejima. So think of it as the Amazon of Japan. So
Okay.
That was a pretty cool place to go. It was the first time I'd ever been to a tropical island. So I really enjoyed that.
Okay.
I've been to the Izu Peninsula. I really like that part of Japan because even though it's only about 80 miles southwest of Tokyo, it's I've seen pictures of Hawaii, and there are parts of that peninsula that look like Hawaii. There are white sand beaches, clear blue water, volcanic reefs. It's just incredible. And then there's hot springs down there as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the Izu Peninsula. I love it to death. A friend of mine has a hostel up in a place called Nikko, which is in the mountains about 100 miles north of Tokyo, maybe not quite that far. But I just remember going there and just being so struck by how beautiful and lush it was. And my friend's hostel has a river flowing out the back door, so you wake up in the morning, you walk down to the river and you jump in there and go for a swim, and then you come upstairs to the outdoor deck and you have a cup of coffee and then breakfast.
Oh, that sounds great. Now, I want to tell the listeners that you are an extreme sportsman. You are one of those guys that you see doing things that you look at TV and think, I will never in my lifetime do that. But Bryan is my guy. He is my extreme sportsman. Are you doing that kind of stuff on your travels?
Whenever I can. I've been bungee jumping now 4 times, and yeah, I'm going to say that that no longer is enough. Bungee jumping now disappoints me. I need something bigger than bungee jumping.
Oh, man.
I go snowboarding in the wintertime as often as I can. And
Mm-hmm.
I've found Colorado ski areas trump Japan ski areas by a long way. But here in Japan, if the ski patrol doesn't see you going out of bounds, they don't say anything about it. or if you just come back into bounds without causing any problems, they just kind of let it slide. So my friends and I, when I lived in Niigata, we would go out into up to a big ski resort, cut out of bounds, and then come back in, and that's more or less allowed.
But don't you worry about avalanche and all that kind of stuff, Bryan?
I do worry about avalanches, but we go into a terrain where an avalanche is less likely. Like we'll be snowboarding in the trees. And I'm not going to say it's impossible for an avalanche to break in the trees, because it is absolutely possible, but it's less likely.
Oh.
And the snow conditions in Japan are different from the snow conditions in Colorado. We don't have, we have a lot of wet snow in Japan, so it sticks. It sticks together a bit better.
Okay. Well, listen, tell my listeners, give us some tips on how to save money while traveling in Japan. What are some tips that you can give our listeners?
When you're going somewhere, take a look at where you plan to go each day, and then assess whether or not it's worthwhile to buy yourself a train, like an all-day train pass or an all-day bus pass. For example, in Tokyo, they have an all-day train pass called the Tokunai Pass, and it's for the Tokyo area and all the Japan Railway trains in Tokyo. So these are all the elevated trains. For 730 yen, so that's about $7.30.
Wow.
You can take those trains all day, unlimited, as much as you want.
Wow.
So if you're going to go if you're going to take the train at least 4 times, you will be saving money by buying that pass. In Kyoto, there's an all-day bus pass. It's about $5, 500 yen. If you take the bus 3 times, you've paid for the pass. So there's things like that. Where I used to live in Niigata, there was something called an Echigo 1-day pass and an Echigo 2-day pass. The Echigo 1-day pass was $15.40 about, and the 2-day pass is about $27. And depending upon how far you're going to go, and how many times you're going to take the train, that can save you some money.
What about housing? What about hotels?
Hotels, don't stay at a hotel. Stay at a hostel or a guest house. Do your research before you go. Use booking.com, use hostelworld.com, use WikiTravel, and see what's available, because you don't need to pay $60, $70 a night for a hotel. I paid as little as $20 a night.
Oh,
and
great.
It's not some terrible, dirty, dingy hole. It's actually quite clean. And the people you meet are just great. And you don't have to worry about security as much in Japan as you do in the United States. You can go into Starbucks, put your cell phone down on a table, and walk away, go get your drink, and come back. Nobody's going to steal your phone.
Wow.
There's just that level of respect for property and other people's possessions in Japan. All
right. I love it. Well, Bryan, tell us, how can we see some of the videos you do? And also, I want to let the listeners know you have an incredible photo documentation. I don't know what a gallery of street covers, what do you call them?
Manhole covers.
Manhole covers, which it's an artistic thing in Japan. They go all out on those things.
Yes, they do. Almost every town, every city, every municipality in Japan has its own manhole cover. They've got a picture on them that depicts something about the character of the town, whether it's a fishing town, whether it's a town in the mountains. The city of Tsukuba in Ibaraki has a space shuttle on it because that's where Japan's space program is. So that's a cool manhole cover. Yeah, I've probably got about 500 of them.
I know. It has been really fascinating watching and following that on Facebook. But tell us, how can we see some of your videos? How can the listeners see some of the stuff that you've done for Traveling on a Dime?
Put into Google or into YouTube Traveling on a Dime, TravelingOnADime, Traveling on a Dime, and they will come up. They will be probably the first thing that comes up.
Oh, I love it. Well, listen, thank you so much. I want the listeners to know that this is my first pre-recorded interview because it is actually 10 to 10:30. Well, it's 10:38 there in Japan, and it's 7:38 here in the morning. So we had to figure out how to do this.
Yes, we did. Yes,
Well,
we did. But
well, Bryan,
what happens when there's such a time difference?
yeah, well, listen, I want to thank you, and I'm so proud of you and what you're doing. And, stay in touch if you get something else going. I know you're working for another travel company right now. Maybe we'll have a chance to get
Yes.
into that a little bit more later. But thanks so much for being on the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Cheryl.
Okay. All right. You have a great night. Sleep well.
Have a good day.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.